welcome to Designing Adobe XD. We're back. I feel like we've been off for a while, like 2 weeks. So here we are back. I was so excited to sort of have this planned out ahead of time. And we had to push last week because the team actually moved to a new studio. So here we are in the brand new studio from the brand new Adobe building in San Francisco. Starting to be a little more lively here. Welcome. I'm your host, Talin Wadsworth. I'm the lead designer of Adobe XD, and with me today I have on a very special guest, and we've been cooking this up for a while. It's my good friend Randy Urbaniak, who is one of our senior program managers for Adobe XD. I don't know if everyone knows, but it takes more than just design and product and engineering to make XD happen. And do what we do on a monthly basis. So Randy, a super important part of our team here to talk about kind of what he does. So welcome, Randy.
Well, thanks, Talin. I appreciate being here. And Talin and I met in the lunchroom one day, and I was watching all his live feeds, and I said, how come you never have program management on? So he said, let's do this.
Fair point.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go, this is gonna be a little deep, but everybody out there, let's say hi to everybody in the chat, because again, it's been a while since I've seen a lot of these names and avatars sort of show up on the chat here. Matthias, one of our regulars as well. Anel, great to see you. Agnes, Gladstone, Zaryeb, great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, man, I really missed being on the stream the last few weeks. It's been tough. That's very nice of you, Zaryeb, to say. So everybody say hi to Randy. If you guys have any questions for us about XD, about Adobe, about kind of, again, what we do here, and we're gonna talk about a lot of that, but maybe there's a specific question.
We're hoping a lot of questions today.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to get an idea from either a designer or a product manager into development and into a release.
Totally.
And so we're going to walk through some of that. And any questions you have, any things you're running into, we'd love to.
Yeah, definitely.
Answer.
And I think the kind of interesting thing here is that and Randy and I kind of been talking about this, and I like to geek out about process and how people work together. That's kind of the meta challenge in any job, is it's not just about the work, but it's about the people, it's about how the people interact with one another, and particularly when you have a really ambitious sort of project that you're working on, like Adobe XD, how do we keep delivering amazing features on a monthly basis? Again, that's pretty new for Adobe. Being committing to monthly releases. How do you just get people to work better together? And Randy, that's an area where that's really what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Program management. So tell us about that. Talk to us about tell me about the program manager role here at Adobe, and maybe how it connects to other roles kind of out there in the business world.
Well, I'd like to even step back.
Sure.
When you're at startup companies, you've got a great idea. You got a team of engineers that are just busting it. I always call it Camelot. There's that period of great idea, great technology, great people, and you're going along. And so you get to a point where that starts becoming successful, like XD. People are using it. They're asking for more features. Well, now you've got sales, marketing, a lot of other sources saying the product needs to do this. It needs to go here. We need to support that. That's a point where you stick program management in there. I want my engineers to be writing code. I want my designers to be designing. I don't want them fighting back and forth, or not fighting, but being their time
distracted,
being,
time being taken up.
And so you start putting in this layer of saying, hey, go through me, and we'll put a process in place of how do I get your idea? Maybe it's great. Maybe that's in the pipeline already. Let's get that idea channeled in to the engineers, to the designers, to the product managers, and then we'll build a process to get that to a release. So program management sits in that middle role.
The glue, man.
The glue. I like that.
When again, I'm a designer who really thinks a lot about process, about how we work. I think that's why I really love my job here at Adobe, is I get to think about how I want to work better as a designer with great tools. But again, when I first ran into, I think, a similar role, it wasn't called program management, at my first studio job. So you're coming out of school as a designer, or maybe just kind of getting into it, and I don't think you really realize like how much it takes to get any job out the door, right? Whether it's a product or a service or even branding or any project for a client. That again, the designer needs to be able to design, an engineer needs to be able to code. And I remember this one woman who worked at our studio, and she was started really. Her title was like an account manager.
Right.
But what she really was this link, this sometimes mediator, moderator between the client and myself as the designer. And so, where there were communications or check-ins or meetings that I needed to schedule with the client, that really would have fallen to me if like she wasn't there. Like her role was really to facilitate the conversation, to move the process forward, to make sure that something at the end of the day like goes out the door.
It is those trade-offs, and I think that's another part of the program management role. You'll have a PM with 10 great ideas, and we want this in Q1, and you have engineering that says we have this many resources, and we can get you that in Q3. So it's those trade-offs. How do we figure out where's the most value for the customer? How do we get that in the pipeline? But the other thing is, of those 10 ideas, one of them's 3 weeks worth of work, one of them's 3 months worth of work. So they're not equal either. You can't just say, well, pick these 4 and push engineering to get them out the door. That's not going to happen.
And kill our engineers. Our engineers are going to hate us.
and the end result's not going to be good, right?
I totally agree with you. I think, again, like having that glue, that person who is there to move the pieces, to put a process together, to talk about those priorities, to get everyone operating at their highest level, like leads to great results. So and everyone, if you're just joining us, welcome. Yes, live. Noel did not expect a live event today, so I'm glad you're here. Thanks for saying hi. Fridays again. We've been off for a couple weeks, so I'm super happy. Again, I can always count on Matthias in there, fighting the good fight, being here, bugging me about rulers.
All right.
Matthias has a little feature request, and it is rulers. But thank you guys for joining us. So we're getting a little deep today, but we want to hear from you. Do you what's the team look like where you are? Like what are you working with? Are you on your own? Are you working with clients? Are you working as part of a larger team to develop and produce a service or a digital product of some kind? Let us know if you have any questions about Adobe XD as well. Maybe someone mentioned the December update. Randy, you have any information you can share with us about that?
Absolutely. Well, all of you know that XD puts out product every single month. And we only put out product when it's ready, and it's going to provide great use to the user. So. We will be having a December release. Absolutely.
We can't say when per se yet, but there will be a December release.
Look for that early next week.
I'm pretty excited about it too. Because there's some stuff that has been cooking for a while.
Absolutely.
Maybe a little out of left field. I don't know. I'm really excited to see kind of what the response is going to be. But it really points to big things on the horizon for XD. So
I think it's a launch pad for 2019 for XD.
Yeah, definitely.
What this release is going to be.
That's a great way to put it. So, so Nell was saying, she's kind of out there as a designer on her own. Nell, so in that role, like, everything really falls to you. And again, like, I feel like, being able to come to work and know that there is Randy doing his job to his fullest ability really just like takes like a load off of me, and I can really focus on delivering great experiences kind of across the application. And I know Randy's gonna keep me honest. So
I think it's also good when you bring that up. As in your role, if you're not program management, reach out to your program manager, because sometimes you're feeling like I'm not moving this forward, or I'm not included in what's being decided on next. Program manager is a great role to go. So when I get input from Talin, my designer, my engineer, my product manager, I can pull that meeting together. I can tell them, wait, that is in the works. You just hasn't been privy to you yet. So program manager kind of has an overview. It's the umbrella view of the entire product. I'm not down in the details all the time, but I know what's in the pipeline, what's coming up in the next release, what's in development. I think that also leads to how do you develop? And I know many teams are in Agile development.
That's been a big, of course, a big topic, a big trend here in the Bay Area for the last maybe eight years or so, maybe. Agile development. Yes. Tell us, for those who don't know about Agile, tell us a little bit, just real quick about what that is.
So nobody does true Agile, by the way, and I think most people know that. If you do Agile, it's some form of it. But what it is, it's a methodology where you do iterations of work. So instead of saying, we're going to build this great new feature and we think it's about 3 months long and we're plug away, and you're running out of time, you're finding roadblocks. Agile, you break it down into story. Well, here's my little thing. This is Epic.
There you go, the Epic, yes.
We use a tool called Jira, and in there you build an Epic. And for us, an Epic is a feature or a change to the product. You then take that Epic and say, what are the stories we need to accomplish to build this Epic, to be able to release it?
What are the sort of like the step-by-step, the features or the pieces of architecture that set the foundation for the bigger story, the Epic. Again, the Epic, when our team sits down, and what's been great, I think on the design side, is I've been able to be a part of that as well, and we've actually moved our process to be closer because there's such value in that. We sort of say, like, what topic do we want to go do in the next 3 to 6 months? Like, and if I sort of tie it back to maybe some of the features that people have requested, let's just take rulers, for example. Right? Like, how would we go about breaking down a process to deliver rulers, right? Like, I mean, that's just, like, I would say, like, it fits as part of this larger bucket in my mind of layout.
So
like,
when you have the product manager, and he says, well, what problem are we trying to solve with rulers?
What problem is that?
Why would the product be better if we have this feature in there? And so he will come up with some cases.
Talking to customers.
Talking to customers. What are the use cases that make the rulers valuable to XD?
Why do you need rulers as part of your work? In XD?
Exactly. And maybe that exact solution isn't the best solution. We've considered that, and there's this other way to do this. But in this case, yes, rulers is going to make the product better. So now we go to the design team and say, here's the problem we're trying to solve, and here's a couple solutions we've come up with. Now, the design team is going to look at that from a user standpoint and say, how would I bring that into the product? Right?
How do we connect it to larger themes or larger workflows happening across the product?
And then going back to Agile, there's iterations. Your first solution is not most likely what goes out to the product or what gets built. So there's an iteration. Design will come up with, here's my first pass on this, and they'll go to the team, both engineering, the product managers, marketing, and say, here's what we see will solve the problem in our product. And they'll get feedback from that, and they'll go back and they'll come up with a couple other. I know we also in design you do A/B testing. Hey, we've got 2 different ways we think could solve this.
We also go out and do a lot of foundational research as well, right? With our researcher Lindsay, who's been on the stream before as well.
Hey, Lindsay.
Like we, and this of course isn't the only feature we're being asked to do, but we're trying to put together a plan, an idea of, okay, what are our rulers? Where do they fit in a designer's workflow? We get some designs together, and well, first we know that people want it. They told us. We know some research. We know why it's important. We put together some designs and some ideas how it might fit into the larger XD. And maybe anything we missed. A lot of connection points come up in that process. Then we come out and we talk to our partners on engineering and product, and we say, all right, let's put together a plan now. To go and make this happen. Right? And of course, we have a bunch of these going concurrently at once, right? Rulers won't be the only feature we're doing.
Absolutely.
And that's Randy being the traffic cop, really tracking, all that work, because if I think back to the story on XD, is like, there was a Camelot for XD, really, right? There were 4 of us, 5 of us, I should say, and we got together and we built a prototype, and then we had to figure out how to go make that prototype real.
Absolutely.
Right? And then we grew the team. Right, to expand our capacity and the things that we were able to do, and the time in which we were able to do it. And then at that moment, that moment we hit that threshold. The minute we needed the program manager to come in and help us put together a process to take a feature like rulers and actually get it into the product in a reasonable amount of time.
That's right. we could step into what we created here was a product development framework.
Yeah.
And actually, every company or every development team needs a product development framework. And it's your own. It's not, here's the recipe, go do this and you'll be successful. Because it depends on the people you have, what type of problems you're solving, the talent.
Time.
Exactly. What you were just saying makes sense. Here's this great new idea, but all my teams are working on the things that have to get out two releases, three releases from now. How do I get them to have some time to look at this new piece, to analyze it? Do we have the technology in place? Is the stack there, or are we going to build a new stack to facilitate this? So that time has to be carved out during each iteration. So what we did was we reached out to actually our development team. That's engineers, QE, marketing was involved, the product managers were involved.
Design was involved.
Design, exactly. And we asked them, what's working for you? What's not working for you? You know, what ideas do you have? And we pulled all that data together. So what we did was we reached out to our team and said, what are we doing well and what are we not doing well? And where do we want to get to?
So this is kind of interesting because this is you in this case, like I said, like you're using a lot of language that we would use when we were going out and talking to designers. But this is the feedback from the team, like we're the clients in a way, like we're the users of this framework, and you as the kind of you know the puzzle builder, like the person putting together the pieces, and your team is really responsible for that. Like you really turned to us and really said, you know, what do you need to do your job better, right? Which I think is a really key. Again, that's you know, actually it was. I mean, this is a weird example, but my wife and I, when we had a baby, we hired a doula because we didn't have any family here.
Sure.
Right? When we had this person who was watching out for us so that we could focus on the things we needed to focus on. Right? And she was there to cover all the other things. The things that would, again, like, would get in our way, or things that, again, like, to help us kind of get through that, to you know, do this whole thing better. You know? It's a funny analogy, but there is this role in any endeavor that you take that, like, you don't realize how much you're taking on yourself, and you really need that person to help say, oh no, how can we help you? How can we help you do your job better?
And going back to the beginning here, you've got a team of 5 of you saying, we have this great idea, and hey, I can call you up, I can walk to your desk. Now that team of 5 went to 50, went to 200. Hey, I'm working on this. Well, wait, I'm working on this piece. Well, wait, these 2 pieces are going to cross. we got to keep that flow going, and that's where you start getting into a framework. How does your team scale? And how do you get work done efficiently and still keep creativity going? You know, if I know that you're working on a new UI for how to bring rulers in, right? But we have another team over here, an assets team that's thinking of something similar that might cross. I need to know that those flows are going on, and
I mean, because you make a really good point in making those connections and knowing that all the different efforts that are going on. Because at the end of the day, this is the experience that everyone out there using Adobe XD is going to be seeing. And like if those teams aren't talking to one another and they're not lining up their efforts and they're not, you know, like those features will feel like they don't belong together. And we take a lot of pride in XD of being very seamless, very contextual, very performant. The puzzle pieces fit together. And you know, like, you know, if I'm honest with myself and with us, I think they're when I look deep at the product, I can actually pick out and show and talk about, like point out the examples of the features that were created that had trouble coming to life, that were not connected to the larger whole. They stand out to me. I think, again, we are always working to go back in and make them better, and that might only be apparent to me because, you know, or us, because we know the product so well. But yeah, there is when there is a breakdown, it has an impact on user experience. You know?
The other thing that's happened is as a team grows, you have a process within your team. Now you're interacting with another set of products. So XD is going to work with Photoshop and bring in assets. Well, Photoshop's working down this path and you're going down this path. How do you bring those two together? How does that UI work together? And so when you start having external teams, development teams, you have to have a structure in place for that too. Who's the owner? Who makes that final decision? Is it an XD decision? Is it a Photoshop decision? Is it an Adobe decision? And so having that structure and it actually makes life easier for people.
Yeah.
Because I know where I can go to get a status on a certain epic or which stories are done. The team knows they can go there. They see the owner on each piece. They see what phase of development it's in. And all of a sudden, most of their questions are answered before they even have to start reaching out to people.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is take up people's time. And in the past, you'd have a lot of people, we need a meeting. I need a half an hour.
Yes,
I need an hour of your time.
Yeah.
Well, every time I take a half an hour of your time, you're not designing my next feature.
Very true.
How do I keep you out of meetings and doing design and moving that forward?
See, this is why everybody needs a Randy, everybody, because of that statement right there. I mean, again, Randy has done a great job. And actually, let's go back to your slide here for a second, because I think, let's talk a little in deep, because it was up there, and I don't think we're talking directly to it. But yeah, walk us through this a little bit more. Let's see. We were talking. You came, the program management team came to the different pieces of the team that make up the whole, and said, what do you need to do your job better, and how do we establish a framework to ensure that we are taking ideas from concept to design to implementation in a way that gets it into the product as when it's ready, as quickly as we can.
I agree.
Right.
Where I think a lot of this started too was going back to here's the 10 features we'd like to get out there in Q1, right?
Yep.
Well, there's different weights to those features, like we said. Some things quick and easy.
Yeah. Something we know the answers to.
Absolutely.
Some things though, we're not quite sure, or this is maybe an area that we want to focus on specifically. Yeah, those were all concerns, and they're all kind of mixed together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you'll have upper management asking, well, we want this in the February release.
Yes.
Well, how do we know we can get that in the February release? You can push engineers or designers to do it quicker. Well, does that produce a better result? Usually not. Yeah. So what we did is in the framework, we started saying, let's take a feature, put an epic together, write up the stories.
Wrap it as part of this bigger theme of something we want to go and tackle. Yeah.
And then we're going to look at it in phases. And so this is what your teams can do. You can kind of look at what phases does an idea go through, and what's the criteria? Who owns the initial, do we put time and resources into building this thing? Yeah. Just because it's a great idea, maybe it's not the right thing for the product, or a different team should be handling that. So what we did was we defined a phase, and like anything else, there's the input to that phase, there's what happens during that phase, there's an owner and an approver, and then it moves on to the next phase. Who says it's ready? So engineering might have resources ready to work on it, but design hasn't validated with the user base yet that this is the way we want to go.
Yeah.
So in the past, if you're date-driven, you would go ahead and push that forward.
Yeah.
And then you launch it, and users are going, wait a minute.
You'd be stressed to get that out the door.
Exactly.
I'm trying to pull something up here in real time, because I thought, again, like you said, the phases thing really resonated with me. Because, and I can't find I don't know if I have the original version of the add-on to this, but I had done this presentation a while ago where I talked about, in the past, what software development, what the process was.
Yeah.
Right? That's, you briefly referenced it, where you have a planning phase where you say, these are all the things that we want to go and do. And then what would happen is that you would go and do that, go down, heads down on work over a period of time.
Right.
Right? And things would happen in that time.
Yes, of
right?
course.
You would figure out it wasn't as easy as you thought it was going to be, or you found a better way or a different way to do it, right?
Big one is too the technology stack.
The technology
Once
stack
you
as well.
bring engineering in,
Yeah.
so you might be looking at the product and say, hey, if we just put a UI here where it can connect to that, well, now you go to engineering and they go, that's a big data load. That's going to slow things down.
Yeah.
We really need to redesign the stack to do that the right way.
Yeah.
Or we do have a stack. That's easy. Let's pop that on there.
That.
Right.
Or again, we find out that's not actually the thing that we want to do. And Nell was saying, I think overall, we have kind of a mission statement of what we want to go do and when we want to do it. Yeah. And then we, as a team, have to work together to figure out how to make that happen. But when you have all those other pressures on you, mostly it's time, right? And resources being the next one that you have pressure on. Again, we have to get creative in how we go and solve that. And I think in the past, what was happening, I don't think there was much of a process. It was really work. Take the, overcome the challenges as they come up. And then at the end of the day, you eventually have something that you can then show, you can test. And if you've missed the mark, what have you wasted? What have you lost, right? And so this was kind of a diagram I have of how digital product development happened in the past, right? Where this is this linear line, this sort of grade sort of going up over time, and you can see you have your realness here on the vertical, and you have time over here. And this was how software was developed back in the sort of physical sort of distribution days, right? And if you had gotten it wrong, what were you left with? Either you release a product that you knew was going to go out the door and maybe fall flat, or you would go back to the drawing board and you'd lose all that time. And I had a follow-on, and now of course I can't find the slide. Oh, here it is. So this was
there you go.
This is what in a more visual way what we talk about when we talk about Agile, and I think what our framework is really trying to get us to, which is can we start with a strong foundation of information, of knowledge, right? And then in a shorter, quicker amount of time, actually get something out the door that can be tested and validated, right? And so using all of our, hey, Tim, what's up, man? Good to see you there. And then again, have a much shorter ramp up time to getting something out the door to be able to ship it. And I really liked this as a visualization of why the framework is important, is that we need to work in these very iterative ways. XD, we release monthly updates. We're trying to, of course, take all the features that we want to go and do, and through our framework, categorize them, and prioritize them so that we can get something out the door much quicker, much faster for our customers.
And looking at our own product, XD is excellent for creating those prototypes quickly to get that in front of people, to get that feedback, to get engineering's perspective on what is it going to take to build that. I think there's two kinds of features also, or paths, I should say. There's the ones which we'd always like to do, release the feature when it's ready. Well, there's a business side to that doesn't work so well. You can't just keep iterating, and not get a feature to market. But on smaller features, there is. When it's ready, we get it out there. So there's constantly a stream of feature set that we're working on, and we're targeting the next three releases.
And I think the phases are really important too. Just go back to that because again, when we put together that epic or that big collection of the sort of theme that we're going to try and tackle, and it might have a bunch of features that we're going to prioritize and going to tackle over time, that we're not trying to get it all in one go.
Absolutely.
Right? That our goal as a team has really been to ship it when it's ready, but ship in an iterative, incremental way where we'll release a feature set over a period of say 2 or 3 releases. And at the end of that third release, we'll have achieved the goals of the epic, and we'll be able to check that box. That we're telling that story over time, that we've tried to front load the work of figuring out how we want to go tackle this, and then we've broken it down into achievable chunks. And then again, we are dedicated to that monthly process.
So one of the phases, a planning phase, exists where that's where you're really bringing all the different pieces of the team together to say, when is that target release? Is it 1 month out, 2 months out, 5 months out? Because now, especially as XD has grown, we're interacting with marketing, with PR, with other product teams. You can't just say, well, when it's ready, we'll let you know and we'll release it. Now there's a lot of other teams dependent on, this new feature that XD is going to have. We're going to piggyback off that, or we're going to do a marketing campaign around that. And by going through our phases, we can give them a better clear idea of when that's going to go on.
I mean, that is I don't think it's unique in the whole world, but I think at Adobe we do have this challenge. We're part of this broader ecosystem, and again, Randy, why your role is so important and so important to the team. You might not actually see the results visually of Randy's work and his team's work, but you will feel that in the quality of the product, in the consistency of the release cycle, right, and the quality of what the team is delivering on a monthly basis. I mean, I think it's visually you're not seeing the impact, but I think you can feel it in the quality of the product and the quality of the features that we release.
It's funny. One of the program management, the role is, if things are going well, nobody knows you exist, because that's the whole thing, right? A good team the coach is there and they're just performing and they're winning and everybody's, wow, they're the best players and they're just, but then it starts going wrong. That coach has to go. And that's what program management, how did you miss this thing? Why didn't that get communicated to them? Yeah. So it's a huge coordination role. And
I mean, getting people to work together is the hardest thing. Yeah. I mean, again, you can have all the talent in the world, right? And I think we have some of the smartest people I've ever worked with on the Adobe XD team. But if they can't come together, have a common language for working, have a really established process, established roles within that process, where again, you're relying on each other to hold your end of that process.
Absolutely.
If you can't build that trust, nothing in the world will help you create a great product.
And it's interesting, the key word you just said there was common language.
Yep.
You're bringing in great talent from either different teams in Adobe, joining our team, or from outside, and they've got all this talent and they're eager. And the common language helps them to move forward faster, to understand how you're developing. How do I know who to go to, or what phase something's in, or how do I reach out to help on other teams? And the more you organize that and communicate that, their job's a lot easier.
Yeah. See, Randy, here he is making my job easy. And Nell, you're totally right. We're all just people. We're all just trying. This is really about collaboration. It's about communication. And as I feel, super lucky to be able to come in and have Randy and the program management team on Adobe XD, helping us achieve these amazing goals that we have that we've set for ourselves. Again, we still are really charting a very ambitious roadmap. And we couldn't do it without Randy and the program management team on Adobe XD.
And same thing. I feel blessed every day being part of this team. It's a great culture, but the people and what we're creating is amazing. And so when I see our design reviews, or even our we have these huddles where the engineer gets to show off. Look at this is pretty close to release, and they'll throw this up, and I know it's getting built, but when you see it and you see it actually working, and the whole team gets electrified that we're going to put this in the product.
Yeah,
it's pretty
fun. Amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling. Well, we are a little over, but thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. If you want to reach out to either myself or Randy on Twitter, feel free to reach out to us directly. We always, of course, we'll talk about Adobe XD all day long if we could. And Randy, thanks so much for being on, man.
Thank you, Talin.
Again, I really appreciate you and what you do for the team.
Thank you. Appreciate your team also.
Well, thank you. So,
all right.
We'll be back next
Friday.
You guys have have a nice weekend, and I said I'll see you back, and we'll have a really cool guest next week, and we'll be talking more about Adobe XD. Thanks, everybody.
All right.